Okay, hi everyone, and welcome back to Bundle of Rays. So, we've been having some decent conversations lately. We've been talking to nurses in New York, we've been to Italy, where I literally just got off the phone about an hour ago to the Australian president of the Practitioners Association in Australia. And here we are speaking to a nurse in central Berlin. So, everybody, say hi to Micah.
Hello.
Hey.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us, Micah. Do you want to give us a bit of an introduction?
Yeah, so my name is Maike. I'm a German, part Australian citizen, and I've done German nursing as well as Australian nursing. And at the moment, I'm working in a big ICU in Berlin.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so this podcasting show is called Reality. So generally we talk to real people in real situations doing real things. I run a virtual reality-based education company. So we're finding these conversations to be really valuable, even though we work with technology. Being able to have a human component within nursing is vital. So thanks for giving us your time. So,
no worries.
Yeah, man. So the thing we're finding here in Australia is that it's, COVID. It's so polarizing, but it's not really happening here yet. And we're watching the world unravel. It's just so crazy what's happening. And I was talking to a nurse in New York, and some of his just stories are blowing my mind. Like, they had 1,000 people die in one day today. Whereas
it's crazy.
It's so crazy. But Germany, you guys are doing all right. You've had like 1,000 in total, right? Just over.
Not quite 1,000 deaths yet, I think. Not quite. Well, that was the last news that I watched a few days ago.
Yeah, and we could talk about how and why for hours, but Australia's doing pretty good as well. We've got like around 5,000 cases and 25 deaths. And when you see the elevation of the curve in relation to Italy, the UK, and the US, we're definitely doing a bit better, which is it's relieving, I tell you.
Yes, definitely.
All right.
Same here.
So let's just get a bit of context for everyone. So living in central Berlin, what's it like going to work? Are you guys in lockdown at the moment?
Yes, we are in lockdown. We are not supposed to go out unless we have a grounded reason for it. And you can feel it. I mean, when I drive to work, I can still see lots of people on the streets, but it's nothing in comparison to when this whole COVID thing wasn't there yet. So it's just, I don't know, summer is coming or spring is coming in Berlin, and that's usually the time where there's lots of people on the street anywhere, big groups, and none of that is happening. So it's weird. It's weird.
I lived in the UK for 8 years, and I've had more than a few barbecues in Tiergarten. Don't you worry about that.
Yeah.
And I noticed on the recommendations it says no barbecues, and I had to laugh. I thought, yep, that's a very German thing.
Yeah, no, you're not even allowed to just sit on the blanket and enjoy the sun for a little while. That's not legal at the moment in Germany. So, yeah, it's tough. Yeah. I'm lucky because I've got a system-relevant job, so I can travel to work and back. Which is making the whole isolation thing a little bit easier for me.
Yeah, it's just so crazy, isn't it? Just keeping that in context. I just remembering that we have jobs. We can go to work.
Yes.
Yeah. And then there's so many people around there that just can't do that.
Yeah. And the other thing is like the security as well. Like, I know for sure that I'll be able to pay my rent, but lots of other people that I'm friends with, they are they have problems because they don't know what's going to happen with their work. So that's a bit of a problem here in Germany.
Yeah, that's a big discussion here in Australia as well about, government stimulus and who's going to get supported and where does the money type of thing. Yeah. So just run down. So you work in intensive care.
Yes, that's right. I work in a quite big intensive care unit. We've got about 24 beds, and I think we've got about 18 COVID positive patients at the unit now. So when I left on Wednesday morning, we had 14. No, wait a second. Yeah, 14. And now we've gotten 8 more. So I think we've got another capacity of 3. So it's they're coming.
They are coming.
They are coming, yes.
How do you feel with that many COVID patients? Do you feel ready? Have you scaled up in terms of what you're doing?
So what the hospital have been doing at the moment, like they've been shutting down planned operations. So anything that's planned and not emergent is not being operated. So they generate a few more ICU beds for that. And also they've closed a few wards. So the ward staff is currently being trained in ICU, which of course is, I mean, if you work in ICU, you know that no one can just be trained in a couple of days to be, a good ICU nurse. So I think what the plan is that one ICU nurse has up to 4 intensive care patients, and then you have like a few ward nurses who help you with the care of the patient. So you're responsible for the high dependency stuff and like care and like turning patients you will have to do with the work nurses. So there's lots of prepping, but at the moment I call it the calm before the storm.
Yeah. In Australia, we've been referring it to like a tsunami. You know, when the water retreats.
Yeah. Yes.
Comes in. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so with these patients that you already have in there, obviously they're sick enough to get into intensive care.
Yes.
Are you seeing anything different than your normal?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So the patients, how do I explain that? So once they become unstable, once you have to intubate them, they deteriorate really, really fast, and they don't have much capacity. So once you have an emergency, you have to really get your stuff together and work fast, because it's crazy how fast they become unstable. Like some patients, you can't even touch them. If they do as little as breathe or cough or anything, the sets go down, the blood pressure goes down. So they're very, 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 very hard to deal with. It's very, very, how do I call it? They're very unstable. Yeah, we've got about 6 patients on ECMO now, lots of nitric oxide ventilation. I don't even know if you guys do that in Australia.
Yeah, so some of the cardiothoracics unit do that to help the right people.
Yeah. And so there's lots of that, and we are a unit, we always have really, really sick patients, but the COVID patients they're a different number. It's, I don't know, it's tough.
Yeah. And how are you finding the staff are dealing with that?
I guess so. The nursing situation in Germany before COVID was really, really bad. Like our team spirit wasn't very good, because we were so understaffed that at times they had to take care of like up to 3.5 ventilated patients. So that's another thing. In Australia, I know that you have 1-to-1 nurse-patient ratio. So there was already a big change for me, having to take care of 2 ventilated patients, and then working in Berlin, I had to take care of 3 ventilated patients. So now, because of the isolation, you can only take care of 2. So I guess that's a bit better than before, but you've got all the PPE, so that makes it hard as well.
Yeah.
Harder.
And what your sort of your rescue ventilation strategies, like proning and things like that? Is that you guys have been doing?
Yes, we've been doing that. We've so I mean, obviously you always go by the bloods, what they say. It's funny, but lots of the patients, like we had one patient, he was kind of he was going a little bit better, and then he became really sick again, and we had to give him the nitric oxide again, and then we had to prone him again because the CO2 levels were just so high, like there was nothing we could do. And it's like a curve. They go up, they go down, they go up, they go down. And because there's no research or no any really evidence-based stuff, we don't really know what to go from. And yeah, it's also really interesting because we also have 2 patients from Strasbourg. I think they've already been treated a little longer in France. So they're actually our good patients. Yeah, they're like, they've got the good bloods, and yeah, we can change the vent settings so they can be spontaneously breathing. And
yeah. So that's one of the big challenges, isn't it, that everyone foresees in ICU, is that you know, they're coming in not for a blizzard, but for a season. You know,
Yes. Yeah.
time. So tracheostomy,
Yeah.
rehabilitation, you know, very heavy resource patients.
Yes. Yes. And the thing is, like, I've been asking our dogs, so what's the plan? Like, so do they stay, like, how long do they need, like, how long are they going to stay that sick? And so far what we've know is that they will be like heavily sick for quite some time. So what I like, when I thought about this whole COVID thing and this COVID wave is happening, that we get patients, they die or they get better really fast, and then we get the next ones. But from what it looks like now, the people that are at our unit at the moment, they're going to stay for quite some time before they get better. So, and I think this is where maybe the issues with ICU beds and vent beds come in, because there's only a capacity of, I don't know, I think 28,000 beds in Germany.
And then you've got people coming into emergency who deteriorate and need a tube, but you've got someone else who's 20 days in and not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Okay. And age of these patients, you know, everybody says, oh, this is for people who's over 80. What's going on with you guys in Berlin?
This is really hard to say. I mean, I think it's always important to know that we are a ECMO center. So we probably only get to see the worst of the worst. And to be honest, at the moment, the patients that we do have, they don't fit in the age brackets that everyone say. They are younger. They don't have known, like conditions prior to coming in. So we've got like a boy that's born in 1999. On ECMO, we've got 35-year-olds, we've got 45-year-olds. We've got everything really. I can't say the unit is full with 70 plus. But then I don't know what it's like on the other ICUs, whether we got the young ones because we're the special clinic. So that's a bit hard. Yeah, there's not much transparency to the age.
That's right. Yeah, being a referral center, I suppose it always makes it hard because you're going to have people coming to you for ECMO, and ECMO is such a difficult thing to deliver en masse.
Yes.
Challenging case.
They did order 75 ECMOs though, so I don't know.
75. Wow.
75. Yeah.
This is a challenge that I think is really interesting, is that, you know, you can get as many ventilators as you want and bed spaces, but who's the nurse that's going to be standing at the end of the bed of those 75 ECMO machines?
And that's the thing. That's the thing that also makes me a bit, I have to be careful what words I use, but the politicians, you know, it's good when they organize all these ventilated beds and these ventilated machines, but who's supposed to take, like, you know, it's science, you know, it's nothing easy. You can't just, you know, train people in 48 hours or something and then they're fit. And it takes quite some time to be comfortable with mechanical ventilation, and ECMO even goes like a whole, like it's so much more detailed. I don't know.
Yeah. And in Australia, you know, the Australian government just gave a company $4.1 million to upskill 20,000 nurses from being ward nurses to ICU nurses through an online platform And I just think, you know, that's just probably a bit of politics, because the reality is, if you're a nurse, and ward nurses are fantastic, don't get me wrong, I've been a ward nurse. Yeah. If you want to learn ventilation, you also have to learn about noradrenaline and adrenaline.
Yes, exactly.
No, it's not It's not just about respiration and how to...
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like most of the patients, they're on heavy septic shock. It's not like they're just need to be ventilated a little bit with easy vent settings that, you know, whatever, they pretty much can choose themselves. They're really, really sick, critical ill patients that need proper care. Like in a optimal state, these patients would need one-by-one nursing. And like I don't know what it's like in Australia, if they will keep that ratio if the wave hits, but in Germany that's not possible. And we've also, because of the nursing shortage, we've got lots of staff that haven't been trained much in ICU, And now they need to take this responsibility. Now we have to train them quickly to, to be fit in ECMO, so they can take other nurses with them with these patients. So it's all, it's a bit tough.
Yeah, and to, there's a lot to do, and if you were a director or a CEO right now, like, you've just got to do what you can, and everybody on the ground is obviously working for the same cause, and that's to help the patient. And 6 months ago or a year ago, it might have been a little bit more political, and people probably didn't have the same focus that they do now, because we have literally people in front of us who are dying, and
yes,
that's going to bring us together, right? Like, we're not just going to banter around some discussion point when we've got 20, 30-year-olds dying on ECMO.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I've been feeling in the unit as well, that even though my unit was like heavily, like, we were a victim of this whole politics, and like the team spirit was really, really bad, but the team spirit has lifted up. Like, we've kind of developed this, yes, we can do this, like, no matter what happened before now, I don't know, it's like this hero thing is coming out of everyone. Like, in Germany, the whole society, like, there was this thing where they started clapping on the balconies for nurses and stuff like that. And like, we've got free taxi services to work, and like, I don't know, there's this Fresh Food, which is like this delivering company, and they bring like we get 30 meals a day at work for staffing. So we can feel the support from the outside. And I think how do you say it? Like I forgot what it's called, but it's the spirit. Yeah, the spirit is up. So that's good.
Yeah, awesome. And, we're feeling that a little bit in Australia as well. We've already had, free deliveries and this and that coming into the unit. But part of me also feels that, it's so early. There's still a lot,
Yeah.
But
that's what I also feel.
Yeah. But
it's too early. Like, yes, you can clap fast, but not yet. You can clap in 6 months or in a year's time when when the pandemic, when it's finished, when it's smoothing out. Yeah.
And so, this is just the little intricacies about work I find so fascinating. Like, when you're on your lunch break, does everybody go and have lunch in the same area, or do you all disperse, like, social distancing?
No, we don't. Like, it's you can't, like, you need to talk about what's happening at work. You need to talk about what's happening with this world. I mean, lots of people are scared. Like, we don't know what's happening with our economy. So I feel like nurses tell themselves, look, we're all being exposed to this virus. We all may get it. I think lots of nurses think that, we have to think that we will get it. We have to prepare ourselves to get sick. And therefore, I think that we don't do the isolation at work. I mean, we have to wear masks anyway, but when we sit down, obviously we don't share plates and stuff, but we sit in front and next to each other, and
Yeah, no, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
All right, and the other big topic internationally has been PPE. How
yes.
is Germany in relation to that?
Well, I thought Germany will not have any problems with PPE, to be honest, especially at the clinic where I work, because it is quite a big institution. But we're running out of the good quality stuff. So I, for an example, got a really, really bad allergy for the FFP2 masks, and the gummy bands are ripping in the rooms. So we're actually having problems with the masks. Yeah, I'm hoping that they find some better masks, because we need to be safe. They have to save us. They have to not save us. They have to protect us. If we're not protected properly, the care can't be provided, and it will not end good on the numbers. So
and I think such an international topic as well, and it's something that every nurse and doctor is fearful. You know, you look at the statistics in Italy and see how many healthcare professionals have actually,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
the fear,
Yeah.
it puts the fear of God in people, really.
Yes. Yes.
Nurses didn't choose to be here. You know, if there was a war, a soldier would go to war, but all of a sudden nurses have been thrust upon the front lines, and
Yeah.
we're just doing our best. And everybody has somebody at home. You know, they have I personally have a pregnant wife who's 31 weeks.
Oh.
Someone has an older parent, someone will have a child who's having chemo. You know, everybody has
Yeah.
something. So it's definitely something we have to work through. And also between the multidisciplinary team, you know, talking to the doctor and the physio about, you know, are you okay? And how's everything? Can I help? And that sort of the spirit that you were talking about is something that I'm finding, you know, a little bit inspiring, that people are really getting on the front foot to sort of do all they can to make sure that shit's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I found that as well. And it's nice and it's refreshing. And yeah, like, yeah, we're all pulling on the same string. Suddenly, like I remember working in Australia as in Germany, that with some groups, it was always a bit harder to communicate because there was prejudice and whatever, but it's gone. There's none of that anymore, which is very nice and yeah, welcoming, I guess.
Yeah. So some of the technicalities of what's going on in ICU, like intubation, for example, you know, have you found that to be confusing or a bit messy, you know, with the changes in terms of aerosols and all that type of thing? Or is that something that just has gotten done?
Well, we haven't really intubated any patients at our unit. They always came to our unit intubated, but there's a big protocol which has been worked up especially for that for that for that thing. And we're trying to do the RSI, the rapid sequence intubation, in order to prevent aerosols. But I haven't actually been, I haven't had to intubate a patient yet. So I can't really say anything towards that.
Well, what about your patients that are improving? Have you had to extubate?
Nope, we haven't. No, we unfortunately haven't been able to extubate a patient. We've had one awake patient at unit, which was like our little star because he hasn't needed to be intubated. I think for a week or so, but he's been getting the high flow therapy, which is I think in a lot of countries they don't do it because of all the aerosols that are going in the room. But we do it. The patients have to wear like a surgical mask under their high flow. So I don't know.
Yeah, okay. That's so cute that you call him a star. I like that.
He's the star. He's our hope. He's like the one guy, like his lungs, they look terrible. Like lots of us don't understand how he has not had been to intubated yet, but he was a rower.
Yeah.
So he must have really, really good sporty lungs, and maybe that's his golden ticket. Maybe that's why he's our star, because he's got very fit and healthy lungs. Yeah.
Well, there was a report from the US that a whole group of NBL players got coronavirus, and they didn't even know they had it.
Yeah, there you go.
You know, from an athletic position, maybe that is something that
yeah,
have on your side. But yeah, that's crazy. Okay, so how do you go with helping your patients communicate to their relatives?
Yeah, well, we've got a hotline, or they've implemented a hotline where relatives can. So there's this hotline. It's called Corona Hotline, where relatives can call, and then the hotline guys try to get information about the patients. This whole thing is quite complicated. So at the moment, we're quite good staffed. So we've got one person outside. It's like the shift coordinator, which usually we don't have. Usually you have patients and have to do the shift coordination. So whoever has the telephone is doing all the patient relative talk. So the relatives can talk, they can call us, and then we give them information. I mean, yeah, most of the patients, they're heavily sedated. So they can't really communicate. But yeah, I think once we're in the weaning phase, maybe patients are tracheotomized and so forth, then I think there will be something better, that maybe iPads, or I don't know. At the moment it's hard. It's also weird not having any relatives on the bedsides. It's like patients are alone and they're so sick. And I don't know, like when before this whole COVID thing, you always had relatives on the sides and you were talking to them, which I don't know, it's always very important for me to know stuff about the patient. And so that's a bit of a challenge for me, I guess, just having patients there with a number and a name and, diagnosis and prognosis, but that's it.
Yeah, this is one of the things that scares the crap out of me is having someone who is sick and, lying in a bed, looking at people wrapped in PPE, staring at a wall, and then dying, like that's just horrific, absolutely horrific.
Yeah.
So even just the idea to provide entertainment or, some kind of innovative way to engage the patients while they're on spont, if they're on spont and they're awake and, you're trying to give them some kind of quality of life, like something.
Yeah.
It's a challenge.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. I mean, the PPE, it's like weird if you look in the rooms and you can't even recognize your colleagues, like who's that? Like, it's funny because you realize that now you have to look into people's eyes to communicate. Like I realized that, I don't know, like this eye contact thing is something, I guess, that now is the number one way to communicate with each other. Which is also very interesting, I find.
Yeah. Well, this is the real, fundamental thing with all these changes to our lives is that these small little nuances of how we do things are magnified. It is interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there'll be lots of things to write about once this whole thing is over, for sure.
Yeah, that is for sure. So do you guys have an emergency department when your transfers come in? Do they come through ED or are you just a specialist hospital?
No, we've got an emergency department, and we've got like one big infectious unit, which is isolated from the rest of the campus. So if you think that you have COVID, then you have to call like a certain number, and then you go in a testing center, and then you're being like quarantined in like, if I don't know, it's like a pre-unit, and then once you're positive, you go into the quarantine. What's it called?
Quarantine.
Yes, in the quarantine ward, and then once you deteriorate, you come to ICU.
Okay. So
I mean, we still have running normal hospital thing going on.
Yeah, of course. Well, I was speaking to a doctor in Madrid last week, and his whole hospital had turned to COVID. So any clean patients had been diverted to different hospitals.
Yeah, I think in the smaller, like I know in my hometown in Franconia, they have like, I don't know, let's say in a radius about 50 kilometers, they've got maybe 5 or 4 hospitals which all belong together, and they've got one COVID hospital. So everyone that thinks that has COVID needs to go to that hospital, and all the other hospitals stay clean.
Yeah.
And but in Berlin it's a bit different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And just managing the walk-ins, like I imagine people are just walking in the front door to the clean hospitals, and how you manage that from a patient transfer perspective is just...
Well, the hospitals are all locked up. Like if you... Like our doctors, they ordered some food, and the delivery guy he wasn't allowed to enter the campus. So one of the docs actually had to leave unit to go and grab the food of the delivery guy. So unless you have like a slip from your doctor that you not need to go into emergency, you're not getting in there. You can't get in.
So just a few things to unpack from that. So with your infectious diseases ward, if a patient there deteriorates, I imagine you have like a rapid response team.
Yes. Yes, we do. We've got like no, they don't come from like So usually we've got like the merge team or the code team. So we don't have a merge team and a code team. We just have a resus team. That's the one.
Yeah.
So we've got a phone at our unit, and whenever there's something at the normal wards or outside of the hospital, they call us, and then we go there and pick the patients up. And at the moment, that's still going. But they did organize like an intubation team for the COVID patients, which is not utilized at the moment because the capacities are still good. So our docs still have time to intubate, and they can intubate, obviously being in ICU. But there's lots of things implemented in our hospital.
Yeah. Okay. So a lot of the patients that have come to your unit have been tubed probably in emergency.
Yes, or even at home. Like lots of people stayed at home, and then they were found by their partners the next day, grasping for air, and then the emergency doctors come and they intubate them at home, which is quite it's hard for the not emergency doctors. What do you call the doctors that are out on the street?
Well, in Australia, that model doesn't really exist. We have general practitioner, but in France and Germany, that you do have pre-hospital doctors.
True. I remember extremely good trained paramedics intubating in Australia.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, I think in the UK, they have a service called HEMS, which is a sort of a critical care retrieval service that, those doctors are just absolute guns. They can do, a thoracotomy, intubate. They do all that sort of emergency medicine stuff. So
yeah, that's what they do in Germany as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the stress on those emergency doctors, because usually they're all like they're clinicians that have their practices, like they're GPs, but they also can do the I don't know how to explain it really. It's hard.
Yeah.
So we've got this emergency, like, when someone rings 111, got an injury, whatever, a doctor comes in, the paramedic comes, and those doctors, we call them emergency doctors. And they've got quite a stress now because they're being exposed to all those patients at home, having to intubate them, and then they have to go into their practices and treat patients. So we've got a lot of patients who got the coronavirus off their GPs, which is the problem.
Wow, yeah, that's messed up, because in Australia we have the GP, like that sort of primary healthcare type service, but it is so strict for you to get into that place. So a lot of telehealth type visits at the moment. But if you even remotely look like you have coronavirus, you're not allowed to walk in the front door of those clinics. But if those doctors were going into people's homes to intubate people, that's a totally different story.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's how our Chancellor Merkel had to stay in quarantine, because her GP was tested positive on corona and did a visit at her place. So, yeah.
Oh, no.
That happened there. Yep.
Maybe that's what happened to Boris as well in London.
Yeah, let's assume what happened to this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Excuse me. All right. Well, I think that's most of the things I wanted to cover. Did you have any other things else you wanted to talk about?
I just hope that it never comes to the triage system in Germany. That's what I really hope, because when that is going to happen, things will turn, not good.
Just to give our listeners a bit of a perspective about the triage system. So in the US at the moment, also in Italy, if you come into a unit and perhaps you are 65, perhaps you take an ACE inhibitor for hypertension, and you tick a couple of boxes for being high risk, you might come in and they just tap you on the shoulder and say, not for treatment. So they'll just give you morphine or some kind of sedatives and let you die, and choose to use the ventilator for somebody else. So the triage system is essentially deciding who gets to use what resources and when, and the human toll that comes with that is just something that we don't want to think about.